Hi there, it's time to get up to scratch. Today, we're going to look at the motion blocks, the blue colored blocks over here. These blocks allow you to change the position and direction of your sprites. Those are the characters and objects in your program. In this example, we've got the cat named Sprite1 down here. Before we look at each block individually and what it does, I want to point out this information that is located under your sprite. The motion blocks affect 3 of these numbers. The other 2 are affected by the looks blocks, so check out our videos on those as well. The X value here describes the X position. That is where the sprite is going from left to right. The Y value describes where the sprite is going up and down. Now you notice the values right now are 0 and 0, and the sprite is in the center of the stage up here. Obviously that means that the values are 0 and 0 in the middle. The stage is 480 pixels wide by 360 pixels tall. So the numbers go from negative 240 on the X to positive 240, and on the Y from negative 180 up to positive 180. The third value to take note of for the motion blocks is this direction number here. You'll notice right now it is at 90 degrees, and that means that the sprite is facing to the right. 0 degrees is set to the top, and obviously, some of you will probably know that 360 degrees makes up a full circle. When I move the sprite, you will notice that the numbers change. So I've moved it to the left a little bit, and it is now at negative 140 and gone slightly up to 3 on the Y value. Shortly, I'm going to show you how to change these 2 numbers and a few other things. Let's go have a closer look now. I'm going to use the when the green flag click block to demonstrate how these work. So let's have a look first at the motion blocks. The first one is the move 10 steps. So this is where the direction is important. We've got our cat facing in this direction. So if I move 10 steps, it will go, you'll notice now the X value down here has changed by 10. And I can continue to do that. Each block will execute, or it will run its function once in order, unless we use some other control blocks, which we will get to in a later video. This can be changed to any number. So if I want to make it go 100 steps, I can make it go 100 steps. If I want to make it go, it's at 130. So if I want to make it go minus 130 or negative 130, I can bring it right back to the beginning now. The next block that we've got is the turn. This is clockwise, and it's set at 15 degrees. So as we do it, you will see the cat turning 15 degrees each time. Down here, the number goes up. And the opposite to reverse that is I can do the turn counterclockwise or turn anti-clockwise, depending on which country you're in. It will go back 15 degrees. So now I'm back to the beginning. Again, this can change. So I could put 90 degrees and it will flip all the way 90 degrees. And I can keep on going that 4 times around. The next one that we've got is the go to a random position. Now Scratch will allow you to put it in a random position. So each time I click this, it will go to a different spot and you can see the numbers change. Another interesting thing that you should probably note is that as I change the position of the sprite here, the default numbers down below in some of these blocks also change. That can be really helpful in the next steps that I'm going to show you. You can also have the cat go to the mouse pointer. However, this isn't going to be a very good block to use if you're only using it once. You will probably need to, as I just mentioned earlier, choose it with a control block, probably a forever block, or even potentially a repeat block or a wait block. Because once I press the green button, I can't actually move my cursor fast enough to get it to where I want it to go. The next blocks now is the go to a position. So again, remember we said that the size of the area is 200. It goes to negative 240 to positive 240 and negative 180 to 180. So if I actually make that 240, it should go to the corner. Now, if I reverse those, make the X positive and the Y negative, it will go down to the bottom of the corner. Now, it is really good practice when you're setting up a program to actually start every program putting your sprites where you want them to be. Often when you're running a program, they'll move around, and then if you play it again, they'll be in the end position. So, for example, if I have my cat go to 0, 0 and move 10 steps, every time I press, it will go to that 10 position. Now, it's interesting because it executes those so fast, you won't actually even see it go to 0, 0. Again, we'll look at how we can make that more obvious when it comes to control blocks. But for now, just know that you can put that sprite in any position that you want to start. And you probably should do that. I'm going to move this back to 0. Another really good one, if you actually want to show some sort of motion, is that you can have the sprite glide. So they actually move slowly over a second. So the first options again are the random position or the mouse pointer. So let's try the mouse pointer one to see. Again, I can't move it that much away, but the random position, you'll notice that when I press the random position, you can actually see the sprite move, and you can see the numbers down here as well change. But you probably don't want things going to random positions. Maybe in games you do. But if you want it to go to a specific place, you can actually put specific coordinates, and you can change the time. So if you want it to move really slow, you can make this a little bit bigger, 5 seconds, and see how it goes fairly smoothly. It's wobbling a little bit there, but it moves on time. It's probably really good to start taking note of how long you're having things go for. The next motion block allows us to point our sprite in a specified direction. So it's interesting that it allows numbers, but then when you open it up, you can actually see which direction you want it to be pointed in. I can also double tap it and put a random direction in. You'll notice later on, and we'll talk about this more when we get to variables, but some blocks are kind of circular or kind of oval shaped, and they can actually go into these spots. But for now, know that you can change this and have the sprite point in any direction that you want. Similarly, as we had with the glide and the go to, we can have the sprite point towards the mouse pointer. Now, again, if we're starting up a program like this, it's probably not ideal to do this block on its own. And I do promise that when I get to control blocks, I will look at how some of them are used, and I'll probably come back to these motion blocks later on. The next 4 ones are kind of similar to what we have, but they just break down everything by X and Y. So this is saying that we can change X by 10. Now, you might be thinking, well, couldn't we just do the take the steps block? Well, looking at the position that the sprite's in now, if I change X by 10, it goes towards the right. Now, if instead I go back and I try the move 10 steps block, you'll notice it goes in the direction that it is pointing. So they are different depending on the direction that your sprite is pointed in. And again, with everything else, you can do negative numbers. So if I want to go back 30 X by 30, it can go 30 in that direction. And the same with the change Y. So again, this will move my sprite up, or if I make it negative, I can make it move down, even though it is upside down. So that's an absolute kind of direction, whereas the steps is relative to the direction that the sprite is pointed in. Now, another one, we've got the set X to and set Y to. Now, you could just do the go to X and Y and keep the Y the same. But in some cases, you might just want it to move to a certain height or kind of distance across the screen. So if I want to set it to -84, now remember that these numbers are actually set to wherever the sprite is when you pull them in. So it's -84 and -84. So if I put it at 0, I can set the X to 0. And the same thing with the Y. So perhaps it's set to Y -31. So I'm going to set that one back to 0 and move it back into the middle. These last few here, again, probably where if you only know these blocks so far, won't be super useful. But again, when you're using the control blocks, they will come in handy. So if on edge bounce, so that basically means that, for example, if I'm going to move 10 steps and if on edge bounce, and I'll put our direction back to 90 degrees. Is that quite? Yeah, there we go. So if I press this, we're going to see, if I press it enough times, I probably should have done more steps, and you'll see now that it bounces. So you can have this repeating, or let's say if we do 200 to make that go a little bit quicker. But you'll notice that when it gets to the edge, it bounces and it flips upside down. Now, depending on how your sprite is designed, if, for example, if this was a ball, probably wouldn't be a problem because it would look the same both ways and up. So you can change the rotation style. So the rotation style right now, once I press this, it will say it is left to right. So that actually changed from what the default was. So now you'll see the sprite only bounces up, left and right, and it's turning around. If I change that to don't rotate, you'll see the sprite bounces and it keeps the same direction. And the other option is all around. This probably won't. This will have the same. This is the default effect. What is interesting is that if you put left to right, and then I use the turn however many degrees, you'll notice it doesn't actually turn, but the number down here keeps going up. And once I get over 180, it flips around. So keep in mind that rotation style when you are moving objects, it could make a big difference. Now, these blocks below are kind of like variables. So they're numbers that you can put into something. Basically, if I'm using another block, I can point in the direction of, this is a really weird one, the X position. So the X position is 7. Let's actually make the X position 90. And then let's make the Y 0. And when we run this, you'll see it points in the X direction. Now, if I change that X to -90, same thing. It goes to that position. Same thing with the Y, same thing with the direction. Now, you probably wouldn't use these in motion blocks. You might use them in the looks block. So that's one of the things that in the looks video, I will have, I will show you how those can be used. These are all the motion blocks that I just showed you. This will allow you to make your sprite move on the screen in the stage. Hopefully you've understood and you're confident in using these in the future now. The next step will be to go, if you haven't already, check out our video on the looks blocks. So these purpley blocks, and then the sound blocks, which are kind of purpley pink blocks. And then beyond that, have potentially look at the sensing blocks and the control blocks, as those will make your programs really come alive rather than just a sprite moving around on a screen. Happy programming! Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.